South Florida is grieving because Nancy Metayer, the beloved vice mayor of Coral Springs, Florida, tragically passed away earlier this month. This was not just the loss of a public official. This was the loss of a daughter and a friend and a powerful voice for our state. It's the kind of tragedy that stops people in their tracks and leaves an entire community asking how someone so vibrant, so committed, and so full of promise could be taken from us so suddenly.
At 8 o'clock in the morning on April 1st, 2026, a city official in Coral Springs received a text message from Vice Mayor Nancy Metayer Bowen's phone number. The subject line read, "Discussion items." That was it, just those two words. No body of text, no follow-up, just a message title sitting in an inbox like a placeholder, like something that was supposed to be filled in later. Like something sent by a woman who expected to still be alive to fill it in. Here's the problem. According to the arrest affidavit, Stephen Bowen allegedly shot his wife 3 times with a shotgun the night before, the night of March 31st, in their upstairs bedroom. He then allegedly went downstairs and slept. He woke up the next morning. He drove to his uncle's house. He confessed.
Your reason. Okay, my nephew, her husband, came to my house this morning and told me that he did something to her.
He tried to dump the weapon. He was arrested that afternoon. So who sent that 8 a.m. text from Nancy Metayer Bowen's phone? Investigators noted this in the police report, and this is the part that should make every single one of you lean forward. They noted that they could not determine whether the text had been scheduled before Nancy's death or whether Stephen Bowen sent it himself from her phone that morning. Read that again. They do not know. They cannot confirm it either way, which means one of two things is true. Either Nancy, on the night of March 31st, before whatever happened in that bedroom happened, had scheduled a work text to go out the following morning at 8 a.m., the way busy professionals sometimes do. She set up her Wednesday before she went to sleep. She was that prepared, that organized. Even then, or Stephen Bowen, after allegedly killing his wife, after sleeping in a house with her body upstairs, after waking up on Wednesday morning and making the calculated decision to drive around Broward County covering his tracks, picked up his dead wife's phone and sent a text to her colleagues from her number in her name to buy time. That question, that single unresolved, documented question sitting inside the police report, is what this entire episode is going to orbit around, because it tells you everything about who we might actually be dealing with here. Stay with me, because we are going somewhere today that no other video on this case has gone. If this is the first time you are watching the series, stop. Go back and watch parts 1 and 2 of this story on MYSTORA Crimes first. We do not recap. We do not repeat. We go deeper every single time. Subscribe right now. Click the bell, like this video, and let's get into it. Because what we found in the new documents changes the picture of this case in ways that are genuinely disturbing. Let me tell you something about Stephen Bowen that the coverage of this case almost entirely missed. Something that was sitting in plain sight in the original documents, and that I think is one of the most psychologically loaded details in the whole story. Stephen Bowen is Jamaican. He is a Jamaican man who married a Haitian woman. 2 Caribbean diaspora communities, 2 different cultures, 2 different histories, 2 different community identities, brought together in the hallways of Coral Springs High School and then bound together in a marriage that the world watched from the outside and thought it understood. Now I am not making a cultural generalization here. I am not saying Jamaican men are dangerous or that this marriage was doomed by ethnicity. That is not what this is. But I am saying that in communities where identity, heritage, and pride are foundational, and both the Haitian and Jamaican communities are deeply rooted in exactly that kind of pride, watching your wife become the first Black Haitian-American woman elected to office in your city, watching her be recognized by the United Nations, watching her work in the Obama administration and the Harris campaign, and be one call away from Congress, while you are a radiology technician whose clearest public identity is a 3-word Instagram bio. That particular experience, in that particular cultural context, carries weight that polite American news coverage does not know how to talk about. He was not just watching his wife succeed. He was watching her become a symbol, a historic symbol, for a community that was not his own. And he was standing slightly to the left of the photograph, every time. But here is what else the documents tell us about Stephen Bowen that was barely reported. This man was not a casual gun owner who happened to have a shotgun in the house. He was trained. He was deliberate. He had spent time at the Homestead Training Center, a tactical shooting facility that offers professional marksmanship training. He regularly posted videos of himself at tactical ranges on his Instagram. One video pinned to the top of his profile, the first thing you saw when you clicked on his page, showed him on a wild boar hunt, smoking a cigar, rifle in hand, like a man who was very comfortable with what weapons do to living things. This was a man who trained with firearms the way some men train at the gym, regularly, seriously, with purpose. And then there's the detail about the exterior of the house that I do not think has fully registered in the public conversation around this case. When a detective surveyed the outside of the home before the SWAT team forced entry, they observed damage to the exterior that the police report described as appearing explosive-like, consistent with force and consistent with projectiles. From the outside of the house, you could see where the shotgun had been fired. You could see it from the street, the windows, the walls. Whatever was in the path of that gun inside that bedroom, the force of it left marks on the outside of the house that a detective noticed while walking the perimeter. That is how powerful the weapon was. That is what a shotgun at close range inside a bedroom looks like from the outside. And this is a man whose Instagram bio said, armed. After Nancy's death, journalists filed public records requests with the Coral Springs Police Department asking a simple question. Had police ever been called to that house before? Any history? Any paper trail at all? What came back set off a media firestorm. 6 calls had been made to that address between August 2023 and April 1st, 2026. 6 times in under 3 years. The Miami Herald ran a headline connecting these calls to domestic violence. The Coral Springs Police Department pushed back hard, publicly, with a full breakdown. They said none of the prior calls were domestic violence incidents. The only domestic violence incident on record at that address, they said, was a homicide itself. So, let me walk you through what those calls actually were, because each one of them adds a brushstroke to a picture that the final image makes very dark. November 2023. Workers inside the house. A contractor and a subcontractor got into a heated argument over floor work being done on the staircase, specifically the staircase leading up to the 2nd floor, the same staircase Stephen Bowen walked up to their bedroom on the night of March 31st. Police came, determined it was civil. Left. August 2024. Nancy herself called police to report a grand theft. A contractor she had hired, someone she had invited into her home, had stolen from her. The woman who fought her entire career for community, for justice, for people, was robbed inside the home she was building with her husband. Then 2 calls about their dogs. One of the Bowens' dogs got loose and attacked a neighbor's dog being walked outside. During the chaos of trying to separate the animals, Stephen Bowen fell and was injured. The neighbor was bitten multiple times. The attacked dog later needed surgery. The following year, April 2025, an officer came for a follow-up visit, and one of the dogs bit the officer during that visit. The recommendation, muzzles, gaits, professional training. Call 6, April 1st, 2026. The wellness check, the SWAT team, the body in the garbage bags. Now, and I want to be very clear about this, police are right that none of those prior calls were tagged as domestic violence. That is a confirmed fact. But here is what I want you to sit with, beyond the headline correction. This house had a contractor who stole from them. It had workers arguing so intensely inside it that police had to come. It had chaotic dog incidents where people, a neighbor, even a police officer got hurt. And the staircase that contractors were fighting about in November 2023, that is the same staircase that leads to the bedroom where Nancy Metayer Bowen's body was found. And here is the detail that has haunted me since I first read the police report. A neighbor told investigators that on the night Nancy died, the night of March 31st, they had seen her outside, walking her dog, alone, around midnight. Midnight. She was outside in the dark at midnight with her dog. And that is the last time any witness saw Nancy Metayer Bowen alive. What was happening in that house that night? What had been said? What had she just walked away from? Even for 10 minutes. To breathe outside in the dark? Or had nothing happened yet? Was she simply a woman who walked her dog late, who liked the quiet of midnight, who had no idea that the worst night of her life was about to begin the moment she went back inside? We do not know, and that not knowing is exactly why this case refuses to leave you. Let me now take you through April 1st, the morning after, hour by hour, because when you lay it all out in sequence, what you see is not a man in crisis. What you see is a man executing a plan. Stephen Bowen slept in the house Tuesday night with his wife's body upstairs. That is confirmed. He woke up Wednesday morning. At some point before 8 a.m., a text went out from Nancy's phone to a city official. Discussion items. Nobody can confirm who sent it. Then he drove to his Uncle Owen Small's house. Surveillance footage from a camera on the uncle's home captured Bowen arriving and standing outside the front door, talking on his phone. He knocked. Owen answered. And Stephen Bowen, according to the arrest affidavit, asked his uncle to hold a shotgun for a couple of weeks. Owen asked him directly, "Did you shoot someone?" And Stephen told him what he had done, that he had shot his wife 3 times, that he had slept downstairs afterward, that he had described to his uncle what he did with her body, wrapped in a comforter and garbage bags in their bed. And when Owen asked him why, Stephen Bowen said, "I couldn't take it anymore." Now here's the part nobody talks about. What happened after that confession? Because Stephen Bowen did not fall apart. He did not cry. He did not call a lawyer in a panic. He looked at his uncle, and he told him he had arranged to meet an attorney in 40 minutes. And he asked Owen to drive him there. Owen, still absorbing everything his nephew had just told him, agreed. The understanding was that Owen would take him to the attorney. Stephen Bowen left before Owen could drive him anywhere. He got in his truck alone, and he drove away. He drove his black Ford F-150 to an apartment complex in Plantation, not to an attorney, to a man named Washington, a fellow Freemason. And at that apartment complex, while across town, Nancy's family was arriving at the house, while her mother was calling Stephen's parents to ask if they had seen her daughter. While police were knocking on the door of the home and getting no answer, Stephen Bowen handed Washington a bag, a rifle case, along with ammunition boxes. He had brought the weapon and the ammunition, and he was handing them off to a man who, according to investigators, had no idea what had just been used on Nancy. Washington took the bag inside, came back out without it. Stephen Bowen's truck, meanwhile, had had its license plate removed. He had taken off the plates to avoid being tracked. But the Broward County license plate reader system still caught him, still got a hit on his vehicle, traveling along SR7. Because even when a man plans carefully, the net is wide. Back at the uncle's house, Owen Small had been sitting with everything Stephen had told him. For 4 hours, he carried the weight of knowing. And then he picked up the phone, and he called 911. And on that 911 call, audio that was later released to the public, you can hear a woman's voice, a relative, screaming at a dispatcher. Tell them to break down the door by whatever means. The dispatcher responds, "We cannot just break down the door without a reason." And then a man comes on the line, and he says, "I'm going to give you a reason. My nephew came to my house this morning, and he told me he did something to her, that she was not alive." That call gave police the legal reason they needed to enter without a warrant. Owen Small turned in his own nephew, his own blood, the man who had come to his door that morning, and sat down and trusted him with the worst thing a human being can carry. Owen Small made the call. Within hours, the SWAT team breached the home through a sliding glass door. They found Nancy on the 2nd floor, in the bed, still wrapped in blankets and black garbage bags. 3 spent shotgun shells were recovered from inside the blankets with her body. And on the bed beside her, a pillow, burn marks on the fabric, string tied around it, fashioned, investigators concluded, into a makeshift silencer. by a man who trained at a tactical shooting facility, by a man who hunted boar with a rifle and smoked a cigar over the body, by a man whose Instagram bio said, armed. By 2:35 p.m., police had surrounded Stephen Bowen at the Plantation apartment complex. His Freemason contact, Washington, later told investigators that as officers moved in, he heard Bowen say, not in confusion, not in shock, "Oh shit, they're here for me." Bowen was arrested. He was put in the back of a police car, wearing a long-sleeved shirt, athletic shorts, and sneakers. Cell phone video captured it. He invoked his right to counsel immediately. He has not spoken publicly since. Now, let me tell you what has come out since his arrest, because this is where the story gets even stranger. In November 2025, 5 months before he allegedly killed her, Nancy Metayer and Stephen Bowen were sued by their homeowners association. Court documents obtained by TMZ show the HOA claimed the couple had defaulted on fees and was seeking permission to foreclose on the home. The amount, $3,710.25. The HOA was moving to foreclose over $3,700. The suit was dismissed in January 2026. We do not know if they paid. We do not know what happened. But we know that in the months leading up to the murder, there was a legal action threatening to take their home over an amount of money that Nancy Metayer Bowen, a woman being recruited to run for Congress, should not have had difficulty paying. So the question becomes, who in that household was not paying bills, and who was carrying who? Because here is what a court has formally determined since his arrest. Stephen Bowen is indigent. He cannot afford a lawyer, a radiology technician, the CEO of a faith-based nonprofit called Men of St. Luke, a homeowner in Coral Springs, a man with a truck, a shotgun, an ammunition stockpile, and a Freemason Lodge membership. That man has been declared by a court too poor to hire his own defense attorney. And then it gets stranger still. The Broward County Public Defender's Office was assigned to represent him. Standard procedure for an indigent defendant. But on April 6th, less than a week after Nancy's body was found, the Public Defender's Office filed a motion asking the judge to release them from the case entirely. Their reason? Conflict of interest. Multiple attorneys in the office had personal and professional relationships with Nancy Metayer Bowen. They knew her. Some of them were her friends. They said they were ethically unable to represent the man charged with killing her. Sit with that for a moment. The public defenders, the people the state assigns to defend the accused, are too personally connected to the victim to do their job, because Nancy was so present in the legal and political fabric of Broward County that even the people on the other side of justice could not separate their grief from their duty. She is so deeply woven into that world that her absence creates a legal problem for the man who allegedly caused it. He sits in a cell, declared indigent, without a lawyer, without a bond hearing outcome in his favor, without a single person who has publicly spoken in his defense. The Freemason Lodge has said nothing. His employers at Delray Medical Center have said nothing. The Men of St. Luke nonprofit has been quiet. The friend named Washington who took the gun bag has cooperated with investigators. His uncle turned him in. His family turned him in. His own people. He has nothing, and the woman he allegedly killed has everything. An endowment in her name. Thousands who came to her funeral. Flags flown at half-staff by order of the governor, a community that is now building laws and foundations and scholarships in her image. On April 17th, 2026, 16 days after her body was found, Coral Springs gave Nancy Metayer back to herself. Governor Ron DeSantis ordered flags across Tallahassee and Coral Springs to fly at half-staff from sunrise to sunset. A sitting governor. For a city vice mayor, a police and Broward Sheriff's Office procession led through the streets of the community she had served. The kind of procession normally reserved for fallen law enforcement and heads of state. Coral Springs gave her that. The funeral was held at Church by the Glades. Thousands came, in the pews, standing outside, watching via live stream from across the country. Political figures, Haitian community leaders, environmental advocates, people from every chapter of her life, NOAA interns who remembered her, campaign volunteers who knocked doors beside her, commissioners who sat next to her for years and still somehow did not know what she was living at home. Richard Brookshire stood up. He had known Nancy since high school. He called what they had a cosmic friendship. He talked about her traveling to Haiti after the 2010 earthquake for her first official role out of school. He talked about her roots, the Haitian identity she wore not as a background detail, but as a center of everything she built. And then he said it, the line that stopped the room. Despite her monumental accomplishments and the demands on her time and her spirit, Nancy was always one call away from those she loved. No matter the time, no matter the situation, she was present. She listened. She cared. She gave of herself without reservation. One call away. No matter the time. No matter the situation. And in that room full of thousands of people who loved her, every single one of them had to sit with the same unbearable question. If she was always one call away for everyone else, why didn't she call someone for herself? Why didn't one person in her world know that the house was struggling financially, that contractors were stealing from her, that the HOA was threatening foreclosure, that something in that marriage had broken so badly that on a Tuesday night in March a man picked up a shotgun and fashioned a pillow into a silencer and walked up those stairs? Maybe she was protecting her career. Maybe she was protecting him. Maybe she was protecting the image of the first Haitian-American woman on the Coral Springs Commission, the woman who was supposed to be a symbol of everything possible, who could not afford for the world to see her marriage falling apart. Or maybe, and this is a theory that I keep returning to, the one that makes all the financial details and all the silence and all the private pain finally cohere into one terrible shape. Maybe she had made a decision. Maybe she had decided she was done, that she was going to Washington, that the congressional announcement was not just a political step, but a personal one. And maybe on the night of March 31st, she told him, and maybe the 8 a.m. text from her phone the next morning was not sent by Nancy Metayer at all. The endowment in her name has raised over $32,000. Her family stripped Bowen from her name before she was in the ground. Her community came by the thousands. A governor ordered the flags down. And Stephen Bowen, the man who said God, then husband, then armed, sat in a Broward County jail cell and watched it all happen without him, declared too poor to hire a lawyer, abandoned by the system he thought would catch him, turned in by his own uncle, sitting with the 4 words he gave the world as an explanation for what he did to her. I couldn't take it anymore. So let me ask you what I always ask, not as a host, as a person who's been inside this story for weeks and cannot stop thinking about it. That 8 a.m. text, did Stephen Bowen send it from his dead wife's phone? And if he did, what does it tell us about what kind of man we are actually looking at? Not a man who snapped, not a man overwhelmed by grief or rage or a single terrible moment, but a man who, after killing his wife, went to sleep, woke up, and then picked up her phone and performed her, sent a message as her, bought himself hours while her body was upstairs and the world had no idea. And what does the midnight dog walk mean to you? When you picture Nancy Metayer outside in the dark at midnight, alone with her dog, in front of a house where something had happened or was about to happen, what do you see? A woman who needed air? A woman who was afraid? A woman who had just said something that could not be unsaid? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Every single one. This community thinks harder than any comment section anywhere else. And this case deserves every bit of that thinking. Subscribe to MYSTORA Crimes. Click the bell. Share this video with someone who needs to sit with this story, because the next chapter is coming. And when it does, we will be here. See you in the next one.